Welcome to Under the Microscope. I am your host, Jenny Germano. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I am excited for this next episode. This is our Cannabis Operator series, and our guest today is Forrest Palmer, and Forrest is the CEO of Kansas City Cannabis. Welcome, Forrest.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on today. And before I dive in, I'm going to give a little bit of background about myself. I got my start working in the cannabis industry in 2009 out here in Colorado, and I was running vertically integrated cannabis operations for a while. And then I started my company in 2015, helping cannabis operators all across the country navigate the regulatory compliance landscape, which is how I met you. I think we met in 2019, 2020, right around
right in there.
The market was taking off there in Missouri. So why don't you go ahead and give a little bit about your background and what you did prior to cannabis and then when you came over to the industry?
Sure. So my first jobs were in the restaurant industry and the service industry and odd jobs here and there. My first management gig, I was a senior in high school, and there was a lady named Karen Johnson who managed a food truck company. And I got to be her carny. I would go from fair to fair and run the food truck with a couple other guys that were in high school. And honestly, I loved it. It was a basic business model, but we sold stuff, or we bought stuff, we made it better, and then we sold it to a clientele that was at the fair there. And the first time that I started thinking, I think I want to own a business. Then from there, I actually tried to go to college for a little bit, and I just got burnt out of the college experience. Joined the Marine Corps. I ended up getting hurt. I got out of the Marine Corps in 2014. Spent some time at some odd jobs, some retail. But my first real big breakout was with American Shaman, actually, here in Kansas City.
Okay.
I spent 3.5 years with American Shaman, running CBD stores, hemp shops. Back at the time, we were doing a lot of franchising, so I did some franchise training. And that gave me a ton of experience with different markets and different people with different varying levels of skill. Taught me how to coach up the ladder as the franchise trainer to the franchise owner. But it also gave me a lot of exposure to all the different facets of a business. I really enjoyed my time at American Shaman. And then from there, 7 years ago, I went to a MoCan trade show, and I had a stack of resumes. Missouri had just officially legalized after their second attempt. And yeah, I showed up and I started handing out resumes, and I met the owners and the original executive staff of Kansas City Cannabis. And from there, we've been hustling ever since.
Gosh, that's incredible. I didn't realize that you went to the MoCan BizCon. I can't remember. Was it MoCan Trade BizCon?
I actually don't think it was called that the first one. It was something different.
Yeah, and it was in St. Louis, right?
Yep. Union Station.
That's right. I think I went to the first three, and that's amazing that you were walking around with your resume and then you met those guys. That's such a great story because I met you like at the second or third one.
Yep. The second one. I had at that MoCan trade show, I had to borrow $300 from my mom for gas money and money for the hotel room. And I couldn't stay at Union Station because it was too expensive. So I went off-site. But yeah, I mean, it's honestly the best $300 debt I could have ever.
I love that. And you paid your mom back, of course.
Of course. Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes, I love that. That's incredible. And when I first met you, I was just so impressed. One, you came to one of my speeches, and I knew right away I was watching you because you were taking notes. And you were taking a lot of notes. And then we had an incredible conversation afterwards, and just hearing about your story and all the work you worked on the application. So if you could share a little bit about the journey, because it was the first time Missouri had legal medical cannabis, and that's where we're going to start first. Is what was the process like with the whole process? Because I know you were heavily involved in the application process.
Oh yeah, I look at the application period with a lot of fondness, honestly. Felt like it was definitely one of the times that we were all earning our keep on the team. It was right around the COVID timeline. So I had actually gotten laid off from my job at the time. And I had an opportunity to work with these crazy ass dudes who didn't have any money to pay me. And they said, hey, if you want to work really hard and take a chance to possibly get no money out of it, we'd love to have you. And circumstance and I guess my risk tolerance was good enough that I went ahead and took that chance. And yeah, application process, we went through a lot of different things. We talked to different people. We talked to some lawyers. We talked to some people that were doing, not contracting, but consulting, getting their feedback on other markets. We dove into what successful applications looked like in other markets, which at the time, it was like asking to see someone's social security number.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't want to give it up. But we ended up getting our hands on a couple successful winners from other states. And honestly, I might be telling the secret sauce here, but we realized we just have to answer the application questions with the initial regulations that the state provided to us. They needed to see that we understood what we read and that we were going to be compliant to what they were expected. So that's how we approached answering the dispensary questions. And it took months. We took 3 months of working in a room that was about this size. There was 12 or 13 of us. We applied for 5 dispensary, 2 cultivation, and a manufacturing. And so we turned them in, I believe, in August, and we didn't get word until December. So we were literally just sitting on our hands, hoping for the best, but we were writing SOPs. We were making connections with people like yourself in the industry to where we would have an upper hand when we finally did launch. Dan was working his ass off to be able to. So Dan actually built our dispensaries at a debt to himself. Like, he just took it on knowing that the payoff, if we did it right, would be huge on the back end. So honestly, it was a lot of stress and a lot of heartache that I would never give back. Like, I love every second of it. I look back on it fondly. And to be honest, it made us the experts that we were going into it, because we had done nothing but spent 9 months studying and writing applications and making SOPs and meeting partners. And some of those partners didn't make it through. And they didn't get applications.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, at the end of the day, Kevin Stallings, one of our original big investors, he called me in December and he said, "Hey, I got good news and bad news. What do you want first?" I said, "Give me the bad news." He said, "We didn't get cultivation or manufacturing." And I thought, I think I know what the good news is. And we were awarded 4 of our 5 dispensaries. We'll go through the appeals process later. We were awarded 4 of our 5 dispensaries. And from there, that was really the beginning line. That was the starting line. What we thought was all the hard work of the race, that was the spot to earn a spot in the race. But yeah, I really look at the application process fondly. It was like a trial by fire. And it was one of the times that our team really got to start showing that we could earn this and we could be really good at our jobs. Dan always calls us the island of misfit toys. We hired low floor but extremely high ceiling people who were willing to hustle and willing to work really hard. And then all those people that were in the application process with us and made it through. So of that 12 or 13, only 6 of us made it to day 1 opening. Of those people, we got equity in the company. Dan and Kevin and the other owners decided, you know what, we're going to award your pain and suffering, or we're going to award your effort. We're going to make it worth your while. Honestly, I can't say enough good things about Kansas City Cannabis at this point.
Gosh, what an incredible story. I just love hearing that. Hopefully this inspires other employees out there. There's always that opportunity in these new markets where someone's, look, I don't have money to pay you, but same scenario. You want to come in and put in some sweat equity. And I can imagine that you guys were all just sitting in that room and working on all these SOPs. And you're right with the whole application process. It really comes down to, are you citing the requirements in your application? That's all they really care about, that you're literally saying, here's all the citations and I'm going to do everything that you're asking me to do. And I know for the cultivation, was that challenging, not being vertically integrated? Is that something that you really wanted?
Yeah, so we named ourselves Kansas City Cannabis Company and then didn't end up with any of our original 4 stores in Kansas City. That was a kick in the knackers a little bit, but at the end of the day, we're all homegrown guys. We're all from here. We consider ourselves Kansas Cityans, even though we're not from the jurisdiction of Kansas City. But we put our dispensaries in Blue Springs, Lake Lotawana, Kearney, and Excelsior Springs. We did a circle around the city, serve the people on the outskirts rather than attacking the state line, which I would recommend for longevity, to be honest. But yeah, without the cultivation, we knew that out the gate we were going to be handicapped because we couldn't control our own supply and we couldn't guarantee that we had product by not controlling our supply. So what we came to the understanding of is that we were going to have to take a cut on our end at the beginning of the market. And the reason we were safe to do that is for 2 reasons. A, prices are going to come down, and they're going to come down to meet where we're already at. B, sooner or later, like every single market before us, there was going to be an oversupply, and dispensaries were going to end up being the important licenses. So we knew if we captured the market early by being competitive on discounts, by guaranteeing the quality, and while giving the customers exactly what they're looking for, and that's in quality, that's in experience, that's in price, that's in deals. We knew taking that haircut would sooner or later come back to us, but it did cause a lot of heartache, a lot of low margins the first couple years, a lot of no profit, even though we were pretty much debt-free going into it because we were taking those margin haircuts. The medical market also allowed in my opinion, it was a cool bridge between the legacy or the black market and the recreational market because, to be completely transparent, almost every single one of our founders came from the legacy market. The reason our company is so great is because we weren't guys that came from money. We weren't corporate hotshots. We weren't people that came with a ton of resume experience, but we came with passion for the product. We believed in it, and the company took care of its people well enough that we always took the philosophy, and this was led by Dan, to be honest, if we take care of our people, we'll take care of the company. And that's exactly what happened. We empowered our people, and they proved it a good bet to take on the back end.
It's true. There's an entrepreneur out there called Marcus Lemonis. I'm going to say his last name incorrectly, but he owns like Camping World and all these things. And he comes in and he buys different businesses. He's more of a serial entrepreneur, but he always says people, product, and processes, right? And people meaning your employees. And he goes in and he rescues these businesses. And he's always, you're not taking care of your people. And if you're not taking care of your people, they won't take care of your customers. So if you invest and take care of your people, your employees, they're going to give that back threefold to your customers. And so I love that you guys have that philosophy. I think it's such a wonderful philosophy. I wish more people in the cannabis industry would adopt that. It's an incredible philosophy. It really does work.
One thing that's so great about the cannabis industry is that we're still on the wave. We're still on the cutting edge of a new industry. If you want to go all the way back to California, they medically legalized in 97 or something like that. Then you have 2012 recreational in Colorado and Washington. That's only, 15 years ago almost? So we're still on the wave of this, and there's still more states to come, and there's still more adult use states to come, and there's still more growth to come. 280E just fell off of medical cannabis there's a lot to unpack there, but that's still history-defining moment that's happening in our industry right now, and that's every year. Every year something like that happens. So the point that I'm making with this is that you find the right people, you take care of those people, and the growth for them, as long as your company's healthy and growing, the growth for them is almost guaranteed with hard work and increased skill set. If I try to get into the coffee business, there's people that have been selling coffee for 100 years, and that's what their family has done, and that's what that company has done forever. Cannabis was more of a legacy knowledge that we're now bringing into a mainstream knowledge and a mainstream skill set. So with KCC, whenever we hire someone, we're taking them under our wing to improve them. At the end of the day, they're either going to get the standard of living that they want out of life working with us, or they're going to get the skill set to where they can pursue that somewhere else if we don't have the advancement that they're looking for. So I'm just going to give some examples of this. Our bud tender development program is designed to get you from day one, never been in the cannabis industry bud tender, all the way through a GM level skill set. You have 3 promotions in your first 9 months, and that's your bud tender levels. Each comes with a raise. Not to mention, KCC starts at the highest in the industry, and we adapt to stay that. So our interviewing process is very rigorous. We want to make sure you're going to buy into the culture and that you have the right mentality towards self-improvement and growth. And then on top of that, we take care of them. They take care of us. We have a 6% turnover rate. Nobody leaves our company.
Wow.
We pay healthcare premiums for our employees. Everyone is bonused all the way down to day one bud tender is a bonusable employee. Really, at the end of the day, we just took the approach of giving people what they need out of a job, and that's empowerment and honestly financial safety. Yeah. And then outside of that, they've taken care of us, and they've taken care of the brand, and they've taken care of the customers. On the customer side, you come in with a product, you don't even need to give me the reason or any of my bud tenders the reason. You come in with a product that didn't work for you, you didn't like it, it broke, it tastes like shit, whatever. We're just going to give you another product. We're just going to give it to you. And in fact, we'll tell you to keep the old product because we stand on the experience. One thing that kind of buttons this all home too is you're always worried that your employees, as an owner and entrepreneur, you're worried that if you take care of this is what I hear a lot. If you take care of your employees too much, you pay too much, whatever, then that experience doesn't go down to the customer because they don't have anything to work for or whatever. But I think it's the exact opposite. When you go into one of our dispensaries, you can feel the energy that comes off of the team, and then that goes to the customer, and the customer has a good experience and becomes habitual for them. So honestly, I guess the moral of the story with KCC is invest in your people, invest in your experience. One thing that we do tie it all together with, though, is that if our store rating falls below a 4.9, then nobody gets the bonus, including HQ staff. So all the way up to me, I get my bonus for that store if they fall below a 4.9 in their customer reviews. There's 2 things that we're really driving home there. A, we're going to take care of you and our people, and we're going to provide you the opportunity to do really well. But if you make it to where our customers have to struggle to enjoy the experience here, then none of us deserve any of it. I think we take a really beautiful approach to it.
Wow, that is incredible. Hopefully anyone listening, this is really helpful information. And I just love the way that you guys are doing that. And you mentioned earlier 4 out of the 5 licenses. So you had to appeal for the 5th license. You had to go through an appeal process for that.
Yeah, we appealed and accepted. And this was when Dan was CEO, so he spearheaded it, the conversations of it. But we appealed and accepted the state's offer early. So we just did a 1-for-1. We have one appeal. We think that we deserve this. We made a good enough argument, and we won the appeal. Other companies had to sooner or later start bundling their appeals. So you would hear, oh, I got 15 dispensary appeals, and the state awards them 2 licenses in exchange for dropping those appeals. So we went a little bit of a more direct early route. So we got that dispensary early. And that actually ended up being our one store that is addressed Kansas City. So now we got a Kansas City location, so that's great.
I feel like, aren't they all in the metropolitan area, though? Aren't those considered metro?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know when I came out there, I just thought that was all Kansas City, to be honest. It just wasn't downtown.
It's one of those things like, so I grew up in LA, but if I'm talking to someone from LA, I would never say I'm from LA. I'd say I'm from the Valley. So it's the same thing here. Like, to anybody else in the world, yeah, we're Kansas Cityans. But to people that live in the heart of Kansas City, they're like, man, Kearney's not Kansas City. But at the end of the day, we all root for the same teams. We all shop in the same areas. So yeah, we feel Kansas City. It's more of a brotherly love joking type of thing.
Yeah. I don't live in Denver, but I get lumped into Denver. I did have a couple questions about the medical market before I wanted to jump into the adult use. So the medical market has matured a lot. How have you had to adapt? Because I'm sure it's different than how it was in the early years. Now we're in 2026. Have you had to adapt with the medical market?
Yeah, so now our medical patient base is about 15% of all of our transactions.
Okay.
And honestly, we still cater to our medical crowd. We have very specific products that are medical. So we do at cost FECO or FECO. And that's been something that we've stood on for a long time. It was part of our original Patients First program. And then we still do heavy medical discounts. You can get 25% off your entire order on Mondays. So we still want medical patients to be able to get their medicine. And at the end of the day, 50% of the people on our team use it medicinally as well. We can relate. Shit, we were using it medicinally before it was legal. So yeah, we still cater to that crowd. The interesting part is that our medical market was so short that it was the timeline where all of the cultivators and manufacturers were trying to figure their shit out. So you would have a cultivator do really well one harvest and then completely fall off for 6 months and have no product, or they would have ran into an issue or whatever. And then you'd have some brands that started out garbage and then ended up being some of your top brands in the state by the end of the medical market. So the medical market was very much a giant test for everyone. It was the state testing cannabis consumption and the tax they could get from it. It was all the operators testing their SOPs and testing their people. And then when RET came, what was that, 2023? RET came, it was a wave of traffic. So then at that point, you started seeing the efficient operators start to stand out. The operators that had buttoned up their SOPs and the operators that had solided up their partnerships and the people they wanted to work with. And then that's also when you saw the dispensary versus the cultivation leverage flip. Suddenly recreational happened and the cultivations didn't have enough to supply all the dispensaries, so they started pumping up. Well, then that pump up, everyone pumped up at the same time, so then the supply went through the roof, and now dispensaries have the leverage because we could just go, actually, we're only going to work with this group because they stuck by us, or we're not going to bring you on because we don't have the shelf space because we're saving it for people that did help us out. Dude, to be completely honest, the recreation, the whole thing's great. Whenever recreational did hit, we went from having, it was probably 15 cultivation vendors to 2. There was only 2 of them that could give us any sort of supply because everybody else was giving it to their own dispensaries because they had to. So it was a doozy. We thought there was a few times where we were scraping the bottom of the barrel on having product in. And a hot truck customer would be like, hey, if you can get me 10 pounds now, I'll pay this on it. So it was a crazy flip. But to answer your original question, the biggest change besides the traffic was that you could see the efficient operators start to come out in recreational use.
Did the whole entire market convert over to adult use? Did some people just choose to stay medical?
So everyone auto-converted. Okay. The ones who get to try to apply for it is the micro license side. The micro license is if they get 2 years into operations or something, they can apply for a comprehensive license. That whole part of the program is very confusing to me because it doesn't seem like the action is actually going towards the stated goal. I feel for the micro guys. I hope the micro guys get the comprehensive check off soon because
Yeah.
they deserve it.
And is it still only micro to micro? They can only do business with other micros?
Yeah.
And they can't do business with the commercial
And
operators?
that's such a confusing handicap to me. Like,
I'm not a fan of it at all.
neither am I. Neither am I.
And what's interesting is I don't know why Missouri did that, because in other states, like right now, I'm looking at what's going on in Virginia. They're getting ready to go to the adult use market, and they're not going to have that handicap. Micro businesses will be able to do business with other operators who don't have a micro license or a social impact license. And in other states, they allow micro businesses to work with the larger operators. Maybe that's something that will change in Missouri.
They were talking about it like it was supposed to protect the micros, but all that does is bar them. So honestly, this is what happens when you have cannabis laws and regulations made by people who aren't operators.
Yes.
So what they don't understand is by keeping the micros from participating with the comprehensive licenses, you actually bar them from supply and you bar them from quality, and then therefore you bar them from most of the customer base. So I'm not saying micros can't have quality of their own, but like I think the original micro licenses were handed out close to 2 years ago. And still most of their supply, if they were even allowed to open, is coming from like a handful of cultivators. Whereas if I'm a micro dispensary and you tell me that I can get supplied by micros, but I can also get supplied by comprehensive companies, I can at least have quality right off the bat, and I can benefit from having established partners. Where you're making my startup interact with only other startups, it's like startups have a 70% fail rate. So now you're going to have me only interact with the most volatile other businesses that are in existence right now. It just doesn't seem equal or equitable. I actually wrote an article on my disagreements with how the micros were set up. And that's as a comprehensive business owner. That's as the person that they would affect the market on the most. So it just didn't make sense to me. I wish they'd do it different, and I hope that regulations change, but there's probably not too much of a push for it.
Yeah, it's a shame because I guess the way I look at it too is that a micro business, they still have the same compliance burden, which means everyone should get to play in the sandbox together. Because if I have to spend the same amount of money, and I think they were given 2 years, right, to get everything together and get operational versus the 1 year of the comprehensive license. They have metric, inventory control, all the same SOPs, the same compliance scrutiny, the quality management. They have to do the quality management system, the QMS piece that you have to do in Missouri. What a compliance burden, and yet they can't play in the same sandbox and get access to that established supply chain. So I think it is frustrating. I would be frustrated if I was a micro business. I've worked with a couple of micro businesses in Missouri and was helping people with their application out there when the first 2 rounds. Maybe it will change, and there might be people who don't want it to happen, which it just doesn't make any sense, because if I'm a supply chain wholesaler, I'd want to sell my product to the micro businesses. I think it would be a good thing.
Even if they would have made micro licenses 111 vertically integrated, you get one license and it covers a small cultivation, a small MIP, and a dispensary, that would have been great because then your own destiny. But not allowing the dispensaries and the MIP cultivation micros to link up, it forces, like I said, collaboration with people that are also struggling.
And silos, everybody.
Absolutely it does.
We're already siloed in general because we're Schedule 1 and it's hemp against cannabis. And now we're just going to create all these micro silos within the state. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm always rooting for the micro businesses. I want to talk about your transition to adult use. I know you talked a little bit about it. So obviously there were supply chain issues right out of the gate because all of a sudden everything auto-converted. And then all of a sudden everyone was like, oh my gosh, we have to supply our own locations. And so partnerships were very important at that time, I take it, for you guys.
Oh, yeah. One of the biggest shocks during that transition, and call it naivety or whatever, but we had, like I said, in the medical market, we had taken the haircut on the margin because we knew we had to. It was part of the strategy. We were garnering as much of our market bubble as we could. But we also thought that won us some favors with the cultivators and manufacturers, and that when rec came along as a dispensary-only group, they would take care of us. And it came down to two groups. Two groups took care of us. I'll give them props. It was Sense and Vivid. Sense and Vivid took care of us. Vivid even at one point contacted us and told us, hey, we'll make sure you don't run out of flower. They hot trucked us a couple times, and I'm still close with those guys. Our teams are still close with their teams because of it. But yeah, when it first happened, a bunch of people that we thought were going to help take care of us fell off. We had a few loyal people stay on, and there were some MIPs too that stayed on with us, but they're a little bit more in the same basket as us because they have to be provided the product to then make their MIP products when they're MIP only. So they were hit with the same, oh shit, the vertical operators are now keeping all of their goods. That lasted probably 4 months where it was a struggle, and then everybody started catching up on their crops. They started supplying us again. The big thing that Vivid and Sense staying with us did, and I'll throw 𝗘𝗀𝗀𝗀 in that too, actually. 𝗘𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 stayed on with us, or Missouri made. The biggest thing that them staying on with us helped is that we had taken all this risk to garner customer loyalty through the entire medical market. We'd taken the financial risk of taking haircuts on the margins and yada. We knew that if we went bottom of the barrel, no products left, it doesn't matter how much they liked us, we would have to earn that trust back. And that's stuff that wasn't even in our control, but it's not something that we could expect the customer to understand. Really helped us keep our customer loyalty.
Wow, that's amazing. And were there any operational challenges going from med to adult use? I know when I first met you, you were up against a point of sale software challenge and some metric integration, and which is just normal. I actually run into people that happen to all the time. What other challenges do you think that you guys might have faced besides supply chain? And I know you had some like software kinks that you guys were working through.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories to tell people whenever any of my teammates are struggling or made a mistake and it cost a little bit of money or it caused a problem or whatever. So when we first met you guys, you linked us up with, oh man, what was it called? I want to give them a shout out. 𝗖𝗀𝗀𝗀. You linked us up with 𝗖𝗀𝗀𝗀.
Oh, yes, I have that.
Yeah. And we brought 𝗖𝗀𝗀𝗀 in because me, as the operator at the time, I had not realized that I was supposed to be closing tags or killing tags in metric and finalizing sales and all that. I had just been making sales and making sure that the receiving side of metric was good. I wasn't doing anything on the back end. And we existed like a year doing it that way. And was it Brandon?
Yeah, Brandon had to come help you guys clean it all up.
Yeah, he did. That ended up costing us like 15 grand or something.
Oh.
Yeah, and that was 5 nights of me and Brandon meeting up after close, working until we couldn't stay awake anymore, and then coming back in at 3 or 4 in the morning to get all of it figured out in between operating hours. And this is on top of having to keep up with all the sales that were already going. So anytime someone makes a mistake, I'm like, is this mistake going to be about a $15,000 fix? And they're like, no. And I'm like, we ran into worse.
You're like, then you're okay. Then it's not going to be $15,000.
And to be, if anyone could take anything away from this, we have allowed mistakes to happen because A, you're not going to avoid them. And B, every single time we've made a mistake, very seldom have we ever made that mistake twice. We recognize it, we fix it, and then we systemize the process to keep it from happening again. And now as operators, which I'm sure we'll get into this in a little bit, but now as operators, we're doing MSAs with other dispensaries to help them run their dispensaries because we just do it so well now.
Yeah.
In fact, I was telling our board the other day that I would bet everything I have and every career point or political point that I've ever made in this industry to say that our dispensary team here is second to absolutely none. And it's because of the mistakes that we had to work through.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's true. Mistakes. People are so afraid to make mistakes or they beat themselves up over the mistakes. And I'm always trying to help people understand it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes and you're going to take that and you're going to learn and you're going to grow. And I bet you won't make that mistake again. And I just don't think there's perfect. Yeah. I think if you strive for perfection, you're just going to kill yourself and you're going to have a bunch of sleepless nights, especially with trying to get open and launching because it's like drinking through a fire hose. But yeah, it's pretty intense. I'm sure it's not a fire hose now. Like you guys are probably leveled out because you have incredible systems in place and bumpers and everyone's well trained. And it's incredible to watch your growth from when I met you guys. How long did it take you to get all your locations open? Was it a full year?
Our last one, the Kansas City one that we appealed on, that one opened in December of 2023. 2024 was our whole first year. 2025 was our second year. Now, so that one took a little bit, but we didn't get it in appeals till much later. The first 4, I'm trying to think of when Lake Louisiana opened. I think we opened the very first one 2021.
Louisiana was my favorite.
Yeah, yep.
Go check out the murals. Each store has its own unique mural and theme, and Dan Nelson did an incredible job. There's a lot of cool antique cameras, and I think the mural is a view from where that location is of Kansas City. So each mural is different.
That's what we were aiming to do. Kearney got a little different, but they all take a very hometown feel. Kearney got the train robberies because that's the home of Jesse James. Excelsior Springs had 13 springs at one point in its town. So we did a bunch of different sprockets, and it's a Art Deco design, and it has a water feature that flows through it. I think one thing that we hit a home run on is that Dan really did. We looked like a professional dispensary out. We looked it right away because the dispensaries were so beautiful.
I love that you connected to each town. I come from a small town, and so I really love that aspect that you guys did, that each area or location that you were in, that you found something really cool about that town or that area, and you incorporated it into the theme. So when people who live there are coming in, they're like, oh, Excelsior Springs, I know the story. Like you said, the sprockets and the water feature. And I always thought that was something really special that you guys did.
We took a very hardcore win-at-home approach. We wanted the people that were going to be the most convenient to come visit us to also be their favorite. Because at the end of the day, if we don't win at home and our local base doesn't like us, but we're trying to get other people to travel to us, then we got the wrong mindset. So we like winning at home. We dive in with the cities and we go do their town fairs. We collaborate with local businesses. We really try to be a partner in the city. We interact with the city councils at every single city that we're in. We really try to be part of the community, and it's like taking care of your people. You take care of your community and they'll take care of you. As long as you're operating smart, you can obviously overspend, but just don't do that.
Your employees live in those towns, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got 115 employees. Like I said, we're at a 6%. Oh, man, what's the word?
Turnover.
Yeah, thank you.
That's right, turnover.
So, yeah, we try to do everything we can to operate from a morally correct place. We just want to do the right thing at all times. In fact, one thing we talk about a lot, we want to make the decisions, obviously, as a healthy business, but we want to make the decisions that align us with being people's favorite job ever when they're 80 years old. I wish all my employees would look back at life and be like, maybe it wasn't the most pay, maybe it wasn't when I made my family, but man, the best job I've ever had was Kansas City Cannabis. And we try to look like that. Yeah. We won Best Cannabis Company to Work for Dispensary side 4 years in a row now.
I love that. Actually, I have that on my list, so I'll hit that. Yeah. I have that. I want to talk about adapting to the market. I was just curious because we're in 2026 now, and the Missouri market has changed, where in the beginning it was all Missouri. But now that I'm seeing that a lot of outside operators have made their way into the Missouri market under an existing license, how much has that landscape changed? I know you might not know the number. Is it all still original Missouri licenses, or have they sold and now it's MSOs?
There's actually not a ton of MSOs here.
Okay.
There are a handful of them that took a shot on Missouri early, and they're still around. And then a lot of dispensaries have consolidated into larger license portfolios. But for the most part, you have a lot of people that were here at the beginning of the application process that are still going. In fact, there's a lot of companies in the state that have become MSOs after their first successful state in Missouri. A lot of them went to Kentucky. A couple of them went to Mississippi. A couple of them jumped into Ohio. One of them has a California presence now. How much has it changed? A lot, but not a ton at the same time. In fact, I would say most of your multi-state brands came in as additives to the menus of Missouri operators rather than taking over Missouri operators.
I love that. Actually, the Mississippi market's actually turning out to be pretty good. We've been getting a lot of cultivation build-outs in Mississippi. I think they've got some changes coming for Mississippi. They're trying. I think that's what I see with a lot of the medical markets, especially the really restricted ones. They're very restricted at first. I don't know if you've been paying attention. Nebraska reminds me of Ohio was in the beginning. Yeah. Nebraska is only going to be like tinctures and edibles. Like you won't be able to smoke anything or just buy flower. And that reminds me of how Ohio was, where you couldn't smoke or vaporize anything in the early set of regulations. And I even look at Missouri. Remember how like 32 pages of regulations. Do you remember that? That's so crazy. I thought that was so shocking because I'm so used to Colorado where they're like, here's 600 pages. Our testing regulations were like 47 pages, and I get to Missouri and I'm like 32 pages. Like the testing regulations were like 4 paragraphs. But that changes, right? And then they add more regulations.
Exactly. Yeah, they, like the rest of us, we jokingly say all the time that we're working on the engine as we're driving down the highway. That's what the program did here in Missouri. We got more regulations gifted to us after we were already open and operating. And to be honest, like some of them feel bigger than others. The main thing that I wish is that everybody in the state could be on the same page, because we still get compliance officers that will give us different advice at different dispensaries, and it will be so different. And then neither of them can answer to which ones. To be honest, the state is really easy to work with. They're very communicative. Whenever we've made a mistake or whatever, we aren't afraid to reach out to them first. Hey, we made this mistake. This is the fix we're going on. And to be honest, that's paid dividends. The state gives us a lot of leeway. They'll call us on stuff ahead of time. Hey, this looks weird, instead of just sending out warnings or whatnot.
Yeah.
So like the state works well with people, but they have definitely added regulations as we've gone.
Yeah, I think Missouri, I think you guys are really lucky. I think they've done a great job. I would say that one piece that you're talking about, that's everywhere. That happens in Colorado. Everybody gets assigned a different agent depending on the region, which is probably, you guys probably have different compliance officers assigned to where your locations are. And the same happens in Colorado. And if you're a multi-licensed operator like yourself, you're thinking, wait a minute, they said it's this, and now over here they're saying that you can't do this. And so I hear that a lot from people all across the United States, where they could come in 3 different days and all say different things and say, oh, you look good. And the next one comes in and says, oh, I don't like where that camera's at. You need to add another camera. But I'm sure you guys are good on cameras now at this point.
Yeah, we got so many cameras.
That is so crazy. And I would also say, too, the regulators have done a great job in Missouri of providing lots of educational content and guidance documents. And I only say this as a person who works nationally. Some states, you really don't get that. And in Colorado, because we were the first out of the gate, we didn't really get those things. And I think places like Missouri and these new markets opening up, and like Minnesota and some of these other markets that are coming online, and New Jersey, they have really learned from states like us on what not to do. I think your market's incredibly successful, Missouri. I love what they did. Not a lot of people love that that's such a capped market, because the capped market, it's really saved you all, because if not, if it was a free and open market like Colorado, you guys could end up looking like Colorado and Michigan and New Mexico and, you know, Oregon, all these really free and open markets that are struggling, where the price per pound is like $500. And so I'm assuming that it's still a healthy price per pound in Missouri.
We've come down quite a bit. I remember at one point we were selling $70 eighths. I always thought that was ridiculous and atrocious, but it was happening, and that's where the market was at the time. Now your average is probably about $35, so you're looking at around $2,000 per pound, depending on the brand. I like it there because before we went
good. That's really good.
It's probably a little bit above. I'm trying to do the quick math in my head off of $35 an eighth. I think it comes to $2,200.
Wow.
But I like it there personally because that's what I was paying for a legacy market eighth before the market took off.
What's an ounce?
But you can get a $200 mix and match ounce at
Wow.
And then there are cheaper ounces that you can get at other stores, but I think we have the best bang for your buck ounce.
Yeah.
To mix 8 different eighths across 8 different brands for $200. Other places will do a single strain ounce for $150. Some places do mix and match of their own brand for $150. Yeah, you can find out good ounce prices.
Good for you guys. I love that it's holding steady. That's pretty impressive. I know you said it's gone down in these mature markets. It is 1,000 and under per pound.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think you were talking about capped licenses earlier. I think the capped licenses, what that did do is protect us from quick commoditization. Yeah. You know, where everyone just starts racing to produce it the cheapest and then get it out there the cheapest, and then everyone's. I'm not against cheap weed, but I am against only low quality weed. And if we're all racing to the bottom, that reduces quality on everyone really fast. And then that's really hard for you to recover that quality in the future, because having to sell $20 eighths to now convincing someone to buy a $35 eighth of something quality, So staying steady where we're at, and honestly, it helps a ton that a lot of the cultivations out here realize what their own quality is. So in my past, every time I talk to a cultivator, in fact, it's still, if you're talking to the cultivator, it's still like this, but they're the best. That's their baby. If you call it ugly, they're going to be pissed. Missouri has been good about most of the cultivators understand the window of quality that they exist in. They price accordingly. And you can generally trust the prices in Missouri. If I pay 25, cool, I'm getting a volume low price 8. If I pay 35, I'm getting your average to slightly average quality. And if I pay 45, that is going to be a top tier.
Yeah. I was just thinking about Missouri's gone through a lot of packaging struggles.
Yes.
Like, my gosh, like the packaging has changed a lot, right?
Oh, yeah.
And now it just has to be like a solid color, right? And it has to have marijuana ginormously across the front.
It depends on who your packaging officer is. Because there's a couple brands out here that have multicolored packaging and multicolored logos, and they just figured out ways to get their compliance officers to write off on it, and then they get to keep it forever. And It's honestly, out of our whole system here in Missouri, the packaging rules are one of the silliest pieces of it. I have my own opinions on why they're standing by it so hard, which probably aren't worth saying. But at the end of the day, it's an arbitrary roadblock for a problem that didn't really exist. But I'm hoping that one day they come to their senses. Maybe this rescheduling talk will help.
Yeah, I have noticed like all the different reiterations of packaging. And so it's really interesting. And it happens in a lot of states. Colorado, we've been through a lot of packaging regulations. I would say Missouri has definitely been more extreme. I wanted to talk about the culture and the best places to work, which I know we talked a little bit about it. You were recognized multiple years as one of the best cannabis companies to work for. What other things are you guys doing internally? I know you talked about that you have this support program for employees from the day that they become a bud tender all the way up to general manager, and that they have these 2 roadmaps where they can stay and they can grow within the company and raise up the ranks or get prepared if they decide to leave. What other things are you guys doing with employees? Do you do a monthly event to build morale?
We do a yearly company picnic, and we do a yearly company Christmas party. We put big money into it. We cater the whole thing. We provide gift bags. It's a +1 that you can bring to. The company picnic is actually bring your whole family. So everyone brings their kids and everything. There's company picnics. There's 115 employees. You're looking at easily 200 people at every picnic. And then the Christmas party is a U +1, no kids allowed. A little bit more formal, that type of thing. But yeah, we pay better than anybody else in the industry. We pay healthcare premiums right out the gate. Everyone's getting their healthcare paid for by the company. If we're doing an action that's going to negatively affect someone, we take that fully into account and we approach it with humanity. So if we ever need to do layoffs, our most recent layoffs that are going to happen, we've actually discussed this recently. We're doing 30-day severance. We're also allowing people to stay on an on-call basis. We're providing letters of recommendation. All of our employees, not very many bud tenders are bonused in the industry, and if they are, it's off a much smaller pool than we do it off of. Really, at the end of the day, I'm leaving a lot of stuff out. I know I am. But at the end of the day, we just try to treat everyone like humans. We actually have a 3-day work week for several employees. We tried to adapt to a 3-day work week where it's 3 12s, but then some of the stores would rather do 4 10s, and we let them do that. But essentially, we increased the amount of time that they could be away from work. Several of our employees have started LLCs while working with us, and we hire their LLCs. We become customers of theirs. Really, at the end of the day, we want to be more than a job. We want to create value for the people. That's financially taking care of them, and that's developing their skills. We are in charge of a lot of Gen Zers and millennials.
Yes.
And they are different to manage than your previous generations. For instance, they're not necessarily dictated by money. They're, in fact, it came in number 4 in a national survey of what Gen Zers and younger millennials wanted out of their employers, and money was number 4.
Wow.
Empowerment and opportunity was number 1, and I can't remember number 2 and 3, but it really baffled me that it wasn't money, because that's traditionally what you want out of a job. So we went ahead and provided them with money and all that other stuff.
Money and security.
Yeah, exactly. We do a 35% discount on all products. It's 50% discount on Vibe products, who's our vertical partner now. Yeah, I mean, we really humanize the people that work here, and we take care of them as people first, and then they're happy with their jobs, and it pays off well both directions.
That's
Oh,
oh, go ahead.
one more big thing. We have never hired for an elevated position from outside of the company. Never. We have 19 headquarters employees that are all salaried positions that are getting taken care of in big ways, and every single one of them either wrote applications with us or started out as a bud tender. Every single
That's
one of them.
incredible.
And that's including our GMs, that's including our ASMs, all the way down. You work your way up through the ladder.
Promote
And we build the
within.
skill sets the whole time. We create value both directions.
I think promoting within, it's really important, and that probably helps with not having a high turnover, honestly. All the things that you're talking about, you've built such an incredible workforce culture, and that you guys have made the culture really important. And sometimes it is that race to the bottom. It is pump and dump. Nobody thinks about, not only do they not think about the workforce culture, they're not even thinking about the compliance culture and how that affects everyone's performance. And I love the approach that you have taken. And I hope people that are listening are really taking notes to how you've approached running these dispensaries. What advice would you give new operators entering this 2026 market? We got a lot of new emerging states. Any tips for these operators?
Man, I think my biggest application tip we said earlier, answer the application questions with the regulations. It's literally the secret sauce. You can save, that advice right there could save at least one company $500,000 in consulting fees. You can save a lot of money if you just understand the regulations and answer the questions with them. Anything that you veer outside of answering those applications questions that way, make sure anything you veer outside of that, make sure it's going back to, and this stuff will help us stay compliant with X, Y, and Z. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, states care about compliance security and compliant inventory tracking. In fact, in Missouri specifically, if we have cash management issues, that's not on them. They don't care about that. They care about tracking the product and tracking compliance security inside. So yeah, that's a big one for the application phase. Secondly, you can save a lot of money and make a lot of money on the back end by empowering people. And this sounds bad. College degrees are awesome. Experience is awesome. But you don't need to necessarily go pay a $250,000 a year COO. You can find a badass hustler who's been in the music industry or in the service industry, or someone that's just had to work their ass off, or someone that's had to rely on themselves professionally, and they can take the reins. If you empower them and you're married to the results and not necessarily married to the process, your hustlers can get it done for you. What else? Take care of the customer. Take care of the customer. Obviously, take care of the people has been echoed this entire time, but I do want to say it's extremely important to take care of your customers. They're unhappy with the product, give them a new one. They think they deserved a discount because they saw it online and misunderstood it. Cool, give it to them. Whatever. They're a day late on this program you're running. Give them the promo. At the end of the day, people think that they're saving nickels and dimes and that will keep their company healthy. But ultimately, that customer is going to spend $10,000 with you this year. And if you run them off because of this $50 purchase, they're going to spend that somewhere else. So it's little pieces of advice, but they're all extremely practical. All the details that you add on top of that is how you build the pyramid, but that's got to be your cornerstones. And then obviously compliance. The state will only shut you down if you're not compliant. The operator, you're mean to your employees, you have bad customer reviews, the state doesn't care about any of that. So even if you get all of that right and you fail compliance, cool, you just lost your multi-million-dollar license. Or you got shut down for a day and you lost $150K in sales or whatever it is. In Missouri, they can charge you $5,000 per discrepancy per day if they really want to look at it.
And metric?
Anything.
Oh my gosh.
That's why the metric error that I had all those years ago was like, oh shit, we need to fix this.
Oh my god.
That's crazy. $10 million or something.
Oh man. I love what you said about that you don't have to have a big fancy degree to get even an executive level, a COO or a director of operations type of job. And I think it's really important because I have people like myself. I come from the restaurant industry and hospitality, much like you, similar backgrounds, converting over to this. And I had a lot of people that gave me a chance early on in my career. And my college degree is photography and an art degree. And now I run my own company and I help people with their businesses all across the country. So it really, it doesn't matter, because if you're a hard worker and you can grind and work really hard, I think those are the best people and have a good work ethic, really.
Yeah, a lot of times those people align. If I guess I won't say it's for everyone, because everybody's culture is going to be different. And it can really be set with how you intentionally set it. We awarded hard work and hustle. Like I said, the people that were in the application phase, we didn't get paid for a year and a half. We worked for free on this for a year and a half, and most of us just didn't have other jobs. And which meant we were ready 24/7. We need to go talk to this person. We need to go talk to this investor. We need to try to get money here, whatever. We were ready to do it. So yeah, hustle is way worth it. Plus, you want to talk about loyal employees. If you're starting a company as an investor right now, and you're the person with money and big ideas, but you're not going to be operating it day to day, but you empower the people who are going to be operating it day to day, there's no better way to establish professional loyalty than empowering someone and protecting them financially.
Yeah.
If you can do it, do that. If you're a startup that's struggling with money, then communicate that to your starting people.
Yeah.
I'll take care of you on the back end, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. And honestly, I think ultimately 𝗘𝗃 ended up giving out, I don't remember the total percent, but it was like 1/5 of our equity to sweat equity people. And now the company's worth multi-millions. And it's because of the hard work and loyalty of those people. It's people, it's culture, it's compliance. I guess if I had to.
Well, it gives the opportunity for people to start working on generational wealth if they want to too, which is very hard to do. Not every job in America allows you to build generational wealth at all.
Exactly. That's probably outside of the love for the plant and the love for the culture that goes around the plant. It has to be the fact that this industry is allowing people who have nothing or very little to become millionaires on the back end. Like the people that wrote these applications, when we won the applications, like I said, it felt like a lottery ticket at the time, but there was a huge race we had to run just to get to the starting line. But what it was, if nothing else, was an opportunity. It was an opportunity for us to really, do the old American pull yourself up by your bootstraps type of thing and work hard for it, which I think is a lot more rare than it was in the 50s and 60s. I could start an HVAC company, or I could start a tire shop back in the 50s and 60s, and I could grow that. Or I could find different, like you have the tech booms. This is almost like our generation's version of that now. Okay, we're on the way to cannabis.
It's true. It really is. I'm excited to be a part of it, and I'm excited for you guys too and all the good things happening. And wrapping up, my last question for you is, what are you most proud of so far?
What am I most proud of? There's a lot. There's a lot that makes me love this company. I'm proud of the fact that our leadership within this company focuses on the idea of rising tides raise all ships. Like, the culture here is like no other that I've ever been attached to. Our collaboration, our hard work, and our hustle mentality, along with Dan's leadership out the gate, really established a culture worth protecting and not just worth talking about in meetings. So whenever we have an issue or we're having a big decision to make, the natural thing that our leaders land on is the right decision for the people. And that's all the way down to our bud tenders. And we joke all the time that when 𝗘𝗃 doesn't exist anymore, for whatever reason that is, we're all going to go have to start something together because there's not another company that will even compare.
True.
So in shorter words, I really am, at the risk of sounding cheesy, I am most proud of the culture here, the culture and the people. It's amazing. It's a joy to come to work every day because we're working on ourselves. We're working on each other. We're surrounded by people that give a shit. And I can't say enough about 𝗘𝗃.
Gosh, that is really inspiring. I love hearing that, and what you guys are doing is really incredible, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I think it's an important story. These stories help other operators if they're struggling. It is an up and down journey in the cannabis industry. It's hard to come up for air when you're in the middle of all of it and running your business, to remember we actually are part of history, and it's multiple generations because Xers, we have millennials, Generation X, all these different generations all coming together. We even got some boomers in the cannabis industry.
Oh, yeah.
We probably got at least 4 generations all coming together collectively building this industry right now. It's really a significant part of history. And 20 years, 30 years from now, everyone's going to look back and say, wow, I was one of the mechanical wheels that helped move this industry forward. And I was one of the many of thousands of people that contributed to the industry early on. It's just really good stuff. And it was wonderful having you here. Thanks for being a guest.
It's always good talking to you.
Yeah, it is always good chatting with you, Forrest. And for those who want to stream the podcast, you can go ahead and check out the episode on Apple or Spotify and wherever you like to listen. Also, you can check out my YouTube channel, which is at Under the Microscope with Jenny, if you prefer to watch videos. And thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in today. And thank you to Kansas City Cannabis. Please tell everyone hello at KCC. And thanks again, Forrest.
Thanks, Jenny.